The morning dawned early with a crisp chill in the air. Gentle light filtered through the windows of a modest home where a single mother and her child began their day. They stirred from sleep quietly, sharing a moment of intimacy in the stillness before the world awoke. The mother carried with her a deep sense of responsibility, shaped by resilience and years of facing life's challenges. The simple act of waking was already the start of another struggle to sustain their livelihood. The mother planned to go to the local market to purchase food essentials. She needed shoulder meat, about $5 worth, carefully balancing the amount to meet their hunger while staying within their limited budget. Bean sprouts were added to the list, fresh and tender, to bring nourishment and a touch of vitality to their meal. The market was a familiar place with faces they knew well, where commerce intertwined with community. Each seller recognized them, and behind every transaction lay unspoken stories and shared lives. At the market, the mother moved among the vendors with composed determination. The exchange of money was not the only currency. There was kindness, understanding, and mutual support that made these encounters more than just buying and selling. Every purchase symbolized hope for a better future, small but precious, balancing the weight of their reality. The day's work stretched before them as they balanced many chores, each a piece of the delicate dance of survival. At noon, they prepared a meal together. The mother asked for help with cooking that day, the fatigue of long work hours evident in her voice and movements. The kitchen filled with the comforting smells of simple dishes slowly simmering. Preparing food was not merely about filling empty stomachs. It was a ritual of care that strengthened the bond between mother and child. Those moments brought a fragile peace amid hardship, weaving love and sacrifice into the fabric of their daily lives. Later, the day unfolded into more errands. They visited a melon field, a plot either theirs or shared through community ties. The mother negotiated to purchase melons for sale at the market, selecting enough to fill a basket. The child was entrusted to rest in a nearby warehouse, a safe spot while the mother continued her work. She balanced the burdens of childcare and economic survival with graceful strength, shaped by hardship but unbroken. When the mother finished cutting the melons, the child waited patiently. Their quiet endurance and unspoken connection were a testament to their shared journey. They prepared to weigh the fruit, the simple transaction symbolizing much more. Their hopes, their struggles, the small triumphs that kept them moving forward. In their small world, every success, no matter how modest, carried profound meaning. The day's story was one of quiet courage, relentless effort, and the sustaining power of love between a mother and her child. Life for the mother and child was a persistent struggle, marked by hardship and unwavering resilience. The mother's life was a quiet testament to endurance, shaped by relentless days of labor and nights of restless worry. Her figure, though perhaps worn by time and toil, radiated a steadfast love that transcended exhaustion and despair. Her every action bespoke a sacrifice made quietly without fanfare, a sacrifice too often invisible to the indifferent world outside their humble existence. While the surface of their days might reveal simple routines, such as buying food or cutting melons, beneath this lay an ocean of unseen emotional and physical struggles. The mother carried burdens too heavy for most to bear, yet she bore them nonetheless, driven by a love so fierce it suspended her weariness. The stark reality of poverty framed every moment of their life together. They lived within the constricted bounds of necessity, where every meal, every purchase was a calculated effort to stretch limited resources to the breaking point. The mother's choice to buy a specific type and quantity of meat was not capricious, but an act of careful planning to feed her family with what little was available. This decision underlined an intimate knowledge of hunger, of how scarcity sharpened one's senses, forcing each morsel to be treasured. In the quiet marketplace, she was not merely a buyer, but a participant in a ritual of survival shared by many in her community, each one renegotiating their place in the precarious dance between want and having, between hope and despair. Behind the mother's quiet determination was a profound strength that defined her identity. She embraced the relentless cycle of labor with a fortitude born from necessity and love. This strength was both physical and emotional. It was the ability to rise each day despite uncertainty, to arrange her world so that her child could find moments of normalcy amidst chaos, to create small sanctuaries of warmth and nourishment, even when the world outside threatened harshness. Her labor was never just about survival, but about nurturing hope. In this, her story paralleled that of countless women who sustained families through invisible work that built the foundation upon which future generations might stand a little taller with a little more security. The relationship between the mother and child was at once practical and deeply emotional. Their bond showed in the simplest gestures, the mother's hands working the fruit, the child resting quietly nearby, the ease with which they shared tasks and space. Through these moments, one glimpsed a profound interdependence, a delicate balance of care and trust. The child's presence was both a source of vulnerability and strength for the mother. In nurturing her child, she found purpose, and through her care, the child discovered safety in a world that could be indifferent and harsh. Their lives intertwined in a dance of survival and love, each movement an expression of resilience. The mother's actions also reflected a wider social and cultural panorama, a world where women like her embodied silent sacrifice and fierce love. Her hardship was not an isolated story, but a shared narrative echoed in communities where poverty shaped destiny and hope was forged through perseverance. Her sacrifices mirrored the lives of many who chose to endure suffering to shield their children from its full weight. This primal act of protection, of placing a child's needs above one's own, held a universal resonance, reflecting the deepest aspects of maternal love and human dignity. It also underscored a silent critique of societal inequalities and the burdens borne disproportionately by women in marginalized circumstances. As the day progressed, the scenes of simple chores, cutting melons, weighing fruit, playing quietly, were imbued with deeper significance. These seemingly mundane acts were fragments of a larger narrative of survival and dignity. The child's playful moments were precious reprieves from the harshness of their reality, while the mother's work spoke of a tireless commitment to keep those moments alive. The warehouse where the child was left to rest was more than just a shelter. It was a fragile refuge where childhood innocence could endure despite looming hardship. The mother's ability to manage these dual roles, provider and protector, worker and nurturer, revealed the complex dynamics of poverty and love interwoven in their daily lives. The minor injuries the police officer sustained while protecting the community later in the story drew a parallel to the mother's quiet battles. His wounds were visible, physical, and cried for immediate attention, whereas the mother's struggles remained largely invisible, yet equally profound. Both suffered because of circumstances beyond their control, one from external violence, the other from systemic hardship. The mother's decision to focus on caring for her family over responding to outside crises spoke to a profound dedication to her immediate world, a world where survival often overshadowed justice or recognition. An essential aspect of the mother's character was her empathy and kindness, despite her own plights, Her willingness to wait, to provide, to care even when resources were scarce reflected an enduring generosity of spirit. It was not just physical sustenance she sought to provide, but an emotional nourishment, a sense of normalcy, safety, and love that could sustain her child through uncertainty. Her hesitance to call upon others, like choosing not to alert the child's mother to avoid worry, revealed a protective instinct deeply rooted in love, but tempered by the realities of their fragile existence. Examining this mother-child relationship within the broader cultural context revealed traditional values of familial devotion and sacrifice, particularly pronounced in Vietnamese rural and urban poor communities. The mother stood as a symbol of these values, embodying the archetype of the self-sacrificing matriarch who endures hardships silently and tirelessly. This archetype is not unique to Vietnam, but resonates culturally because it encapsulates a shared experience of countless women who bear the brunt of poverty's cruel demands while fostering hope through love and care. The narrative, though centered on an individual family, reflected universal human themes rooted in poverty, resilience, and love. It showcased the complexity of survival in a world where poverty was not just an economic condition, but a social and emotional state, imposing layers of psychological pressure. The mother's unwavering commitment within such constraints highlighted human dignity's persistence and a capacity for love that transcends hardship. This layered portrayal deepened the audience's empathy, transforming stereotypes of poverty into rich human stories filled with nuance and strength. This story also underscored the intersectionality of gender, economic status, and family dynamics. The mother's burden was not simply about food or shelter, but about navigating a society where her choices were limited by economic hardship and social expectations. Her role demanded not only labor and affection, but also resilience against systemic neglect. The narrative subtly critiqued these conditions by illustrating how survival was a daily act of courage and love, rather than mere happenstance or defeat. In conclusion, the mother and child's journey was a microcosm of larger societal and human truths. Their story revealed the invisible threads that connect hardship with hope, sacrifice with love, and endurance with identity. It celebrated the resilience of those who face adversity with quiet dignity and reaffirmed the power of maternal love as a transformative force in the darkest of circumstances. Through this detailed, compassionate lens, the narrative invited a deeper understanding and respect for the countless similar lives lived in the shadows but shining with strength. Life continued under the weight of hardship and quiet perseverance. The mother and child lived in a world where every day was a test of endurance, a balancing act on a thin line between scarcity and survival. Their home was a simple shelter made from modest materials, often worn and patched, sheltering not just their bodies, but their hopes and dreams. The walls, though fragile and weathered, held the weight of countless untold stories of struggle and love. Sleep was often uneasy, shadows of daily worries casting themselves even in the quietest moments. Yet within these humble confines blossomed a deep connection, a resilience born from necessity that neither time nor circumstance could erode. The mother faced an ever-present burden to provide sustenance and care. Food was more than nourishment. It was a symbol of survival and a demonstration of her love. She rationed meals carefully, each bowl of rice or portion of vegetable measured to feed her child's growing needs without emptying their meager stores. Often, the food was simple: cornmeal, rice, a small piece of meat or fish, rarely abundant, but always shared with tenderness. The hunt for these necessities took her to markets, fields, and the edges of the community where she bartered, borrowed, or begged. This effort was unending and exhausting, yet she moved forward fueled by determination to hold her family together. In the harsh light of day, the mother's work was tireless. She tilled fields or performed odd jobs wherever possible, sometimes hired for agricultural labor, sometimes trading small goods in local markets. These endeavors brought irregular income, barely sufficient to meet immediate needs. Monetary worries accompanied every meal, every purchase of medicine, every school fee. Health concerns for the child added urgent layers of anxiety. Illness was a shadow that haunted their fragile existence, with the threat of devastating costs and missed opportunities. Her hands, worn and calloused, spoke silently of the countless days spent laboring under an unforgiving sun and the nights spent awake with worry. At the same time, the mother bore the emotional weight of isolation and social stigma. Single motherhood in their community often brought whispers and judgment, yet she bore these unseen injuries with quiet dignity. The gaze of others may have judged, but within the family's unspoken bond lay a fortress of love and acceptance. The child, for all the hardship faced, was a constant source of joy and purpose. The mother's sacrifices were made not merely out of obligation, but a fierce love that chastised fatigue and defied despair. Every late night, every skipped meal, every moment of anxiety was tempered by the vision of a better future for her child. The child's world was equally shaped by these struggles. Days were marked by both routine and uncertainty. Attending school was a triumph in itself. Walking long distances in worn shoes, often with inadequate clothing against the cold or rain. The classroom was a rare refuge where dreams sparked, despite tangible hardships of material lack. The child carried the hopes of the mother unspoken, yet felt deeply. Moments of hunger, moments of illness, moments of loneliness were softened by the mother's unwavering presence and efforts to create stability. Each step forward was a battle won against the odds stacked high by poverty. Medical challenges often imposed harsh limitations. Routine visits to hospitals drained precious resources and added to the physical and emotional exhaustion. The mother became not only provider and nurturer, but also caretaker and advocate, navigating complex health systems with little support. The weight of caregiving was compounded by financial strain. Medicines were costly, travel for treatments was arduous, and days spent in hospitals meant lost income and increased vulnerability. Despite this, the mother never wavered in her resolve to protect and heal her child. Their home was more than a shelter, it was a symbol of persistence. Often a small room with patched walls, a leaking roof, and sparse furnishings, the house echoed the economic fragility, but also the warmth of family bonding. Shared meals, small rituals of daily life, laughter amid tears, and whispered hopes under the night sky transformed this space into a sanctuary. The mother's constant attention to maintaining this home environment, despite hardships, manifested an extraordinary courage that protected her child's dignity and spirit. Social support was limited, and community judgment sometimes added to the burden. Assistance from neighbors or charitable groups was sporadic and often insufficient. The mother's pride made asking for help difficult, yet necessity forced humility in moments of crisis. In these exchanges, the delicate balance between autonomy and dependency played out, underscoring the complexity of survival in poverty. The mother's decisions balanced maintaining dignity while securing the scant help needed to carry on. Education held profound symbolic weight. The mother viewed her child's schooling as a ticket out of hardship, an investment toward a better life. Every effort was made to keep the child in school, purchasing books, sewing clothes, making difficult sacrifices to ensure attendance. Lessons learned in a cramped classroom were envisioned as stepping stones to breaking free from the chains of poverty, even as daily life remained constrained by necessity. This hope was a beacon amid struggle, illuminating the dark hours with promises of transformation. The mother's emotional landscape was layered with both exhaustion and fierce hope. Moments of despair and tears were hidden behind smiles and unwavering care. The sacrifices she made were not visible in headlines or public admiration, but in the quiet, steady acts of love that built their survival day by day. Her story articulated the invisible labor of poverty, the emotional, psychological, and physical toll carried silently by many women in similar circumstances. This narrative brought to light the dignity and humanity inherent in even the most marginalized lives. The child's growth under these conditions was a testament to resilience. The child learned early the realities of scarcity and the value of hard work, absorbing lessons in empathy and gratitude from the mother's example. Yet innocence was preserved in moments of play, laughter, and dreams shared with a loving caregiver. The bond between mother and child, forged in adversity, became a powerful force that nurtured hope and endurance. Together, they faced the world's indifference, crafting a shared narrative of survival grounded in love. This microcosm of family life illustrated larger societal truths about inequality, gender roles, and social justice. The mother's experience highlighted how poverty disproportionately affected women and children, and how single mothers bore compounded challenges. Her story was a call for recognition and support for those whose struggles remained hidden, but whose strength was profound. It underscored the necessity for structural change to alleviate these burdens and create pathways for dignity and opportunity. In their story, pain and love, hardship and resilience were interwoven. The mother's sacrifices shaped the child's present and future, anchoring hope in the acts of every day. Their journey illuminated the power of human endurance and the unbreakable bonds of family. The narrative invited reflection on compassion and justice, urging a world often indifferent to the marginalized to see and honor the strength in ordinary lives.